Pauline Swift for Our World Media. I'm here with Georgia Nora. We're doing an interview with the Bronx Borough President, Mr. Ruben Diaz Jr. Hi, welcome to the show.
How are you? Welcome to the Bronx. Welcome back to the Bronx. This is your hometown.
Yes, it is my hometown. I have very fond memories.
And congratulations on everything you guys are doing with Our World.
Thank you.
Information.
Thank you.
So, you're to be commended.
Thank you. I would like to ask you a few questions as to, I've followed your career, first of all, for the past 20 years. From the time that you was an assemblyman, and now that you're the Bronx Borough President. And I want to know what motivated you to get into politics.
A number of things. On a personal note, my father, who was involved in politics since the late 70s, he ran for office for the first time in 1980 and lost for state senate, ran again in 1985, then he ran again for a different position in 1990. So we, either helping my dad, when I say we, my family, my brother and sister, we grew up around it. We grew up putting up posters, licking envelopes, stuffing doors, knocking on doors, collecting petitions, and we did that with my dad or other candidates as well. So that, and the fact that my mother, also a retired daycare teacher, they always taught my brother and sister and I to give back to the community. As well as the fact that, unfortunately, when I was first getting involved, there were very few voices for youth people inside of the Bronx political arena. So I thought I should, lend myself to that, be a voice for the youth. I ran for district leader when I was 21 years old. I won that position against somebody who was there for over 23 years. And then at the age of 22, I ran for the New York State Assembly in a special election and lost. 10 months later, I ran again for the same position. And I became the youngest member of the state legislature at that time. And as they say, Pauline, the rest is history.
George,
That's great.
that's beautiful.
So, this is really an exciting time in the Bronx. Compared to every other borough, you guys are doing, since you came into office, you've made quite a number of progress, especially with, I understand about $9.4 billion has been invested in development, creating over 15,000 jobs. I'm wondering, in what areas are you targeting to invest the dollars so that it will help in the transformation of Bronx to a better borough?
Well, in very different areas. We've done a lot around economic development, so close to, like you said, $1 billion, $9 billion. I think we had $1 billion already. We've seen over 24,000 units of housing, so a lot of that is around housing, making sure that we do affordable housing, but also making sure that we do mixed income to retain our professionals. We've invested in the growth of our healthcare industry, which is the largest employer in our borough. 1 out of every 4 adults that's employed is employed by the healthcare industry. Tourism is up 14%. So restaurants and cultural institutions and lounges, the nightlife is bustling here. We just inaugurated the Silver Cup Studio, so the film industry is doing a lot of work here, and we're about to, we're starting conversations already to bring in York Studios, which is going to be sitting on 11 acres in Soundview. The tech industry, over in Port Morris, you see partnerships that we've already started between Perscola and Doran Jones. They currently employing Bronxites in the tech field. They are testing financial software. So we already have 150 people who have been employed. They work in groups of 10 to test software. We obviously have a lot of retail. The first indoor mall in the Bronx is here. We created 1,900 jobs at Bay Plaza doing that. So there are a number of different fields that we've been progressing, and that's the reason why we've been able to cut unemployment by about 50%, more than half.
Wow.
About half. 100,000 more Bronxites are working today than the first day that I took office. And we're very proud of that record.
That's amazing.
That's beautiful. I also heard that the Bronx is one of the most reasonable places to live, as opposed to the other four boroughs. Why is that?
Because for many years, people didn't believe in us. They ran away from us, and so the property value was low. You gotta understand that in the 70s and the 80s, and the early 90s, crime was running rampant. We're the safest Bronx the world has seen in 50 years today. It wasn't always like that. We see all of this development, so there's very few vacant lots, if any, anymore. You don't see burnt down buildings. You don't see rubble in empty lots. And so a lot of folks just did not invest in us. However, we know that because of that, there's this renewed interest in the Bronx. So it's important for us to continue to develop and to continue to progress and do so in a way where we keep our personality, we keep our character, we keep people here so that as we build, and obviously there's going to be people from other boroughs who are going to move into the Bronx, but that we do so where developers use Bronx businesses and vendors, where they have the construction jobs that go to Bronx sites, and ultimately where Bronx sites are the ones who benefit from all of the development that's going on. It's very difficult. It's a very difficult balance. But for instance, today I just came from an event where the American Planners Association just gave us, we were 1 out of 5 streets in the entire nation, Arthur Avenue, gave us one of the greatest streets over. And that's because Arthur Avenue still has that identity. Arthur Avenue is still one of the very few places in the city that has this authenticity, that has businesses that have been passed down from generation to generation inside the family, in many cases up to 100 years, 100 plus years. Very few communities, very few neighborhoods, very few business strips or commercial strips can say that. So as we progress, and as Arthur Avenue and other parts of the city, of the Bronx grows, we're still trying to make sure that we still have that Bronx flavor and that personality intact.
Okay. Joy.
It's really, like I said before, very exciting. Under your leadership, we've seen so much accomplished in the Bronx. What do you attribute to your success? I know before you was Adolfo Correon and then Fernando Ferrer. What is it that really sets you apart from your predecessors? Those two before you.
I don't necessarily compare myself at different times, right? But our success is attributed to many things. Everything from the people who live here, their resiliency, the fact that while immigrants are being vilified throughout the country, especially by some people who run for president of the United States, the Bronx has benefited from the immigrant. We are a borough of 1.4 million people, where about 40% of the people who live here were born in another country. We got folks from West Africa, we have folks from the Caribbeans, we have folks from South and Central America, we have Albanians, we have Bangladeshi. So that diversity and that immigrant population brings with them a work ethic, a mindset of being family oriented, of being hard workers, of being families and people of faith. So we benefited from that, number one. Number two, working closely with the police department has decreased crime, and that has allowed for people to open up to come visit us and also to invest in us. Political stability, where once upon a time, all of the politicians in the borough used to fight one another. And now if you look at my colleagues in government, at every level, how everyone is just working in unison. Everyone speaks in one voice, whether in the city council, in the New York State Assembly, in the state senate. It enables us to get more and more resources and more attention and respect. And then, it doesn't hurt when you have certain relationships. So, for instance, I have a close working relationship with Governor Andrew Cuomo, and the first African American Speaker of the New York State Assembly is Carl Hastie, who is from the Bronx, who I served with in the Assembly, who is one of my personal friends in government. So those relationships all help with making sure that while government is doing things for other boroughs and other counties, but at least like we're not asking for favoritism. All we've always wanted is to be treated in par, up to par with other counties, and that's finally happened.
Great.
Now, what would you say has been your greatest challenges
Mm.
in the last 10 years
In the Bronx?
in the Bronx?
Well, certainly as the borough president, you wish you had more resources, you wish you had more of a say-so around city agencies. You know, you're the president of the Bronx, but you don't control the city agencies, even though I can't complain because many of them have been responsive to us. But I think one of the most challenging things, and this is, I don't know if you could relate to this, but it's two sides of the same coin. What do I mean by that? One of the challenging things is to have people outside of the Bronx take a new look at us and realize that we're not the Bronx of the 70s, 80s, and early 90s anymore. That we're like the new Bronx, that we're experiencing a renaissance, that we're vibrant, that we're safer, that there are things to do here, that you should not succumb to the negative stereotypes that unfortunately the media likes to perpetuate, number one. On the other side of the same coin, though, is changing the psychology, or maybe not changing, but having the mindset of Bronxites to understand that this is ours, this is where we live, and not only do we deserve more, but when we get more, we have to learn how to keep it, and we have to learn how to take good care of it. And so we've been beaten down for so long, Paulie, that it's unfortunate. Sometimes you hear folks say, oh, you know, that park or this street is dirty. What do you expect? This is the Bronx. It's almost like they accept that. So, but more and more, you're starting to see that folks are taking pride in their local communities, in their neighborhood, in their parks. And now the biggest complaints is that of wanting to keep your park clean or their street clean. And so that's a good thing because people are really now starting to see that there's a value to who we are as Bronxites and that this is our home. And before we want anybody else to look out for us, before we want anybody else to think of us differently, we have to start thinking of ourselves differently.
True.
And so that's starting to happen.
Now, what haven't you done that you would like to do?
Ooh. Connect the entire waterfront contiguously so that people can either walk, run, bicycle, rollerblade all around the borough. I would love to see the Kingsbridge Armory finally come to fruition with the ice sportsplex that we wanted there. We've already started by having the 4 Metro North stations that are going to be in the eastern corridor of the Bronx. I want to see that through. I want to see the development of the Harlem River waterfront, the coastal line in Mont Haven and Port Morris. I would love to see that develop, where we have old factories there. I would like to see the avenue, the corridor on White Plains between Gun Hill and 242nd Street develop. We upzone that. We want to see new buildings, more density, more commercial. I would love to see, for instance, back in Classen Point, for a ferry service to come there, ferry service to come to City Island, for ferry service to go to Drosnack, to have piers where people can enjoy the waterfront in that beautiful Long Island Sound. I mean, the list goes up. York Studios, I would love for them to hurry up and come here as well. There are a lot of things that we have at least started the conversation, but not yet finished. Creating a boulevard on Sheridan so that people on the other side could come in and enjoy Starlight Park.
one thing that you didn't mention, what about the schools? How-
So I mean, delve into, I mean, there's so much that we can do, we can talk to about schools, but in terms of schools, give me a particular
Well,
part.
as I said before, I grew up here in the Bronx.
Mhm.
I went to Sacred Heart School up on 168 Nelson Avenue, and then I went to Cathedral High School and Fordham University. Have there been new schools come about since that period
Well,
of time?
since then, obviously, we have a lot of charter schools
Okay.
and, you know, there's been new developments, but, you know, the reality is that for many, many years, as it pertains to education, while we've seen a lot of principals and educators do a lot of great work in the Bronx, we've still been shortchanged by the, so you asked me my frustrations or
Mhm.
what are some of the things that I wish I could do that I can't. I don't control the Department of Education. I don't control the funding formula, the funding stream. So whether they've been Democrats or Republicans in City Hall or Democrats or Republicans in Albany, the Bronx as it pertains to education has been shortchanged. This is the last 2 years have been for the first time with Governor Cuomo and Speaker Carr Hasty is where we're actually getting, not just the Bronx, but throughout the city of New York, those schools with the biggest challenges get an infusion of funding. But we need to make sure that we have more and more English as a second language class, you know, or English learners, get more and more programs. But we also need our gifted and talented to have more services. We need to make sure that our students who are doing well, that more and more, particularly Black and Latinos, get into more of our specialized high schools like Bronx Science, like Brooklyn Tech. Create more of those specialized high schools in our borough. So, yeah, as the borough president, I've been concentrating in the traditional public school system, concentrating, supporting the charter schools, giving them a whole lot of capital funding for science labs and computer labs and doing their auditoriums over and doing their playgrounds over. And I'm going to continue to do that. But, you know, when you want to retain your professionals, a lot of people make the decision to stay here so whether or not their children to get a good education. So we got to do a little bit better around education.
Okay.
And I'm always, you know, there to work with the city and also criticize the city when I see that they're not doing right by Bronx students.
Okay. Why I asked you that question is because I'm now a grandmother. So if I was to think about relocating back to the Bronx, that would be one of the first things that I would, you know, need to know is about the school systems, because, you know, that's a great concern of mine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's the most important thing, if you ask me, with all the things that are happening here, all of the development, things that are coming down the pipeline. You and I know that 15, 20 years go by like this. So
It does.
you get a kid who's in the 5th or 6th grade now, they'll be college graduates ready to accept some of the jobs that are coming here. How do we prepare them for that? How do we prepare the new economy that's really starting to target the other boroughs and not just Manhattan? How do we invite corporate America to come here, the tech industry? How do we invite, you know, how do we come to the next Silicon Valley and make sure that it's our Bronx kids who are getting those jobs? Well, we got to start that now. And sometimes it's frustrating when the city touts, you know, programs, but programs that won't be fully implemented for another 5 or 10 years. That's a whole generation that is going to miss out.
True. Very true.
So I'm always critical of that, but I'm always willing and ready to work with the DOE and the chancellor and the mayor and whoever to educate our students.
Okay. George?
I mean, this is really an exciting time, you know, in the country. You know, we have the presidential election coming up November 8th. How do you assess the current state of our politics nationally? The possibility that a woman is on the verge of probably becoming the leader of, President of the United States. How do you see these things vis-a-vis the progress we've made in the areas of equality and inclusion? I know Bronx also is one of the boroughs. An estimated 61,000 African immigrants live in the Bronx. How can you just elaborate.
If I had to sum it up in one or two words, it would be, it's unpredictable. The state of the national election, and it's volatile. Now, full disclosure, I am 1,000% supportive of Secretary Hillary Clinton. We had in the Bronx, she's a good friend. I think she's gonna make a fantastic president, but she's doing all she can as a candidate. I think it's really incumbent upon our communities to get out there and encourage other folks, whether in New York or other states like Pennsylvania, like Florida, in order to get out there and really make the difference to bring over the top. I say it's unpredictable and volatile because we all would like to think, especially since we live in the Bronx and we all live harmoniously, that we've done a lot of progress around diversity and women's rights. But then you get someone like Donald Trump, and he goes out there and he attacks and vilifies Muslims. He attacks and vilifies women. He attacks and vilifies immigrants. He attacks and vilifies Latinos. He accepts support from members of the Ku Klux Klan, which totally offends blacks and Jewish and minorities. And yet, George, he's not down and out. So, and yet you see him at rallies and you see thousands and thousands of people cheer him on. That with so many shootings at the hands of the police nationwide, particularly to black and Latino men, and we're still at a place where this race, at least the polls show that it is close. So it concerns me that a guy who's so offensive is still so close to someone who's so tremendously qualified, someone who's so tremendous. And more so than him, what concerns me is that the reason why he's close in the polls is because unfortunately you still have this big community out there who has not progressed in their thinking, in their acceptance to diversity, to the coming of age of certain communities, to the equality of women, to the equality that we need to give people who are in the LGBTQ community. And so if we're not careful and if we don't work hard, this is a very unpredictable election that can go away where we don't want it to. So we have to work.
Wow. Also, we've seen...
let me just say this. When he first started, we thought it was a joke. We thought it was reality TV. It's no longer a joke. And at first, at least I'll speak for myself, I just thought that he was doing us a favor, just doing away with all of the other Republicans, one at a time. The Republicans that we thought would really give us a hard time. So we thought that, okay, he's doing us a favor, and he is at this point, and it's so close, it's no longer a joke.
Okay. So my next question is, we've seen a spike in police shooting and protests and things of that nature. And, that raises some level of concern. On top of that, you have Black Lives Matter, conversations throughout different parts of the cities in the United States. Are we still, what are the things that needs to be done to bring about more inclusivity, bringing the different groups together for racial harmony?
I think we see a lot of racial harmony. If you're talking about Black Lives Matter and police shootings, what needs to happen is that the community, but first of all, Black lives do matter. And what needs to happen is that cops who shoot unarmed men should go to jail. They should be arrested, they should be indicted, and there should be justice. They should be put in jail. And until we see a system that treats, and by the way, my sister's a retired police officer, a sergeant. I totally support the overwhelming majority of women in uniform, but but we cannot deny the fact that there are a lot of them who police Black and Latino communities differently than they police other communities. Someone might say, oh, but Black Lives Matter, they say this, they say that, but they don't say anything when you have black on black crime. We all protest and we all, want to combat black on black crime, but when Latinos and blacks kill Latinos and blacks, by and large, those people get caught, they get indicted, they get put behind bars. But what we don't see, even when there's a video camera, what we're not seeing is justice. What we're not seeing is a judicial system that is willing to hold police officers accountable, especially when the person that they shot and killed did not have a weapon, was not threatening, and they died for no apparent reason, simply because of the color of their skin. So until that happens, at least as it pertains to police, community, and Black Lives Matter movement, you won't see a lowering of that tension. We've seen year after year, we saw everything from Eleanor Bumpers here to Amadou Diallo to Hilton Vega to Angel Rosario to Malcolm Ferguson, Sean Bell. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, and that's just New York, that's just New York City. Over the last 12 months, we've seen, over 1,000 police shootings, and it's amazing, probably 1,200, 1,300 shootings nationwide. You haven't seen one police officer that's been indicted and put behind bars in any of those shootings. Nationwide, there's a problem. We have to admit that there's a problem.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you.
And I wish you the best of luck with whatever you do in the future. You have one more question.
How can we be here? What about your future aspiration? Do you want to, step up to some other?
I was trying.
For someone that has done so much, to lift the Bronx up from where it was before, I mean, there has to be some kind of, not reward there, but, you look forward to move on to something better. And of course, there's been talks or whisper about what you might do coming up, I don't know, mayor of New York City.
Well, George, I'll tell you this, I appreciate that, and when folks come up to me and they have different thoughts and ideas about what I should do in the future, I feel flattered. But I have one more term as borough president. I love my job, and as I mentioned earlier, there's so many things down the pipeline that we still have to finish. So if I have to make a decision tonight, I've said it all along, I will run for re-election next year. And then we'll see what happens after that. We never know what's going to happen from now to next year. If an opportunity presents itself, then I will seriously consider it to run for a higher office. But ultimately, it'll be the voters who will make that decision. And I would have to look very hard at it. I would have to make sure that my family is supportive of it. I think that there's a good case to make for the turnaround that we've seen in one, if not the most challenging part of New York City. And if other New Yorkers outside of the Bronx will give me that opportunity, we'll see what happens. So stay tuned.
Well, I tell you what, you definitely got my vote.
Thank you.
Pauline Swift, George Honora for our world, speaking with the Bronx Borough President, Ruben Diaz.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.